Today's opening words, raising the dead. For the rest of my life, I will be raising the dead. Unwanted by most, ignored and forgotten, those people dead from AIDS who begged for a word that was kind. They will arise everywhere I go, misty armies in white cotton t-shirts and colorful sub-equatorial prints. I'll see them as sequins in each gentle snow. I'll hear them as distant hollers and songs on warm summer winds. I'll feel them as memories when I embrace you. Nuts. How funny I must seem, an aging, monitor-lit madman scurrying squirrel-like from desk to kitchen counter, scanning and slamming dictionaries, unburying germinal meanings as I struggle word by word to simply say simple thoughts. Still with you. Don't wonder where I've gone. Time and space are just illusions. I'm where I've always been, still with you. Still with you like the air you breathe, like the thoughts you think. I've never left you in solitary. The sun unseen behind the clouds, the rain that quickly follows sun, the wet of water, the dry of warmth, like another skin still soft and sweet. Don't search, don't fret or fuss. There is nowhere that I exist, but in the ups and downs you live. I'm where I've always been, still, so still with you. Today's reading is several short poems. Your smiles. Like a lighthouse on the shore, a fire on a mountain, the highlight in an insect's eye, the sheen on a bear's fur. Like rays of sunlight, stars at night, the white of snow, the glisten on water. Your smiles, remembered, illuminate even my darkest moments. Reels. Slow are the reels in which we turn. The world hesitates and the dance pauses, the steps change. With our feet midair, the mind tumbles head over heels. We catch our breath, exhale, and breathe again. Pathfinder. Sometimes, if I move forward one step at a time, place each foot with care, brush aside or go around obstacles, and use my intuition as much as reason, then what was once terra incognita reforms my circumference. Now, wisdom encourages me to be wholly aware in the present moment, but I flee from now, even now, and now. No secret. I know there is no hidden wisdom unseen in daily life. Love cannot be worn like Sunday best. It must be the living tissue under my daily vestments. Friendship. Friendship does not recognize time or distance, ever living, ever patient, ever happy to feel akin to another. And essence. I watch us change, behaviors and bodies, fortune and fame, stiffening and softening, opening more or not. But the essential me will recognize your essence always. Keep it simple. Small town adventures in being human and learning to like it. A thank you and farewell. There is a tradition at this meeting house that when the minister is not delivering the Sunday sermon, we sometimes invite someone from the congregation to speak about a facet of their spiritual reality. I have had the honor of standing up here and sharing several times over a 20-year period of time. This time, though, I will soon be leaving the Cape and moving to the distant island of Hawaii. So I asked the worship committee if I could share once more before I prepare for my migration. In the months running up to today, as I struggled to understand what it was I thought I was inspired to share, I sometimes regretted asking for this opportunity. Often all I thought in those moments was, yikes, what have you gotten us into this time, Ollie? But I wanted to express my gratitude to Provincetown and the Lower Cape for having changed me for the better. Now, as I had hoped all along, I'm actually delighted and, as always, honored to be up here sharing a part of my spiritual journey. I would like to shed a little light on how it has come to be that I see life as a miracle-filled spiritual adventure that is unsuspectingly ordinary in appearance. Some small insights into why life has become for me a compilation of unending, nearly invisible miracles. It is not just my personal story that I see as a spiritual adventure, but rather all of life. You know, the universe, this dimension and everything in it, and any others we have yet to discover. A miracle-filled spiritual adventure of unsuspectingly ordinary appearance. When I was young, I thought that miracles were rare, exceedingly special, and always involved saints and holy people. I believed that in order to experience miracles, I needed to reform myself. I was taught, and more importantly believed, that I was not sufficient just being myself. I needed to improve those parts of me that were considered bad. I needed to acquire traits that I was lacking and rid myself of traits that were considered unacceptable. I needed to practice being good. And try though I might, I was never the good little boy that the world saw or wanted me to be. I believed that I needed to acquire goodness and to discipline my rebelliousness. I worked at it diligently, and to my distress, and later my amusement, I failed miserably. Part of the problem with Maria, or in this case Bruce, was that I could not help but clearly see the inconsistencies in my religious upbringing, and I chafed at the moral lies presented in the social contract of my community. So I set about reading everything I could from other sources, cultures, arts, and religions throughout history. I was determined to find some truth that would allow me to gain a perspective from which I could formulate a way of living that made sense to me. I've read a great deal. I've loved all of it and found it invigorating and inspiring. And I have found no single truth, no single path or answer. I also thought that I might find spiritual insight in the sensuous side of life. And I entered more demi-modes of delight and debauchery than would be appropriate for me to share in this sanctuary. As in my quest through spiritual teachings, my quest through the wonders of sensations, titillations, and physical satiation provided inspired moments and revealed windows into the miraculous nature of life. But they were momentary and fleeting. I had found no answer to my quest, and I continued to be convinced that I was missing some essential understanding about living consciously. What was missing for me was a core awareness of the ongoing succession of spiritual moments. I was still unable to allow myself to experience the whole of life as a miracle-filled adventure. I was still spending more time wanting to feel the sacredness of being than I was simply living life's flowing moments of sacredness. The reality of which, for some unknown reason, I was absolutely convinced was completely available to all of us. I did enjoy being a seeker. I never seemed to tire of the journey, the challenges, and the unexpected insights and gifts. And I continued to struggle and search, determined to find the sublime in the mundane. At the end of the 1970s, I became infected with the HIV virus. As soon as the test for the virus surfaced, I was asked to participate in the first trials. It was determined that I had AIDS, and everyone counseled me to prepare to die. I was terminal. There was no cure. The medicines I was taking made me sicker. By 1992, my doctors, friends, and family were sure that I had but a few months left to live. I was relieved. I was tired of worrying, fighting, and being terribly ill all of the time. It was then that I moved to Provincetown. It was 1992, and this town was already struggling to care for the sick and dying. It seemed a good place to die. I had grown up just off Cape, and have always loved the ocean and the Cape. Provincetown was close to family, but far enough away so as not to be an embarrassment to them. I got a small one-room apartment on Bradford Street. It was right across from the AIDS support group. One afternoon, in my first month in town, a case manager, Bill Furden, hollered across the street asking me if I could help them out. They needed someone to sit for a few hours with a man who had just been discharged from the hospital. The VNA nurses were swamped, and there were no volunteers available. Several years earlier, I had cared for a partner of mine while he died of AIDS, so I said I would help. I walked up to the Pearl Street area to the home of Franco Palumbo, a chef who had lived in town for quite a while. He was home from his third bout with PCP and had about 8 tubes hanging out of his chest and arms. 3 friends had been sitting there, all waiting to leave. In moments, Franco and I were alone, strangers in an intimate setting. Surprisingly, Franco was excited that we both shared the disease. He, like many other people with AIDS at that time, felt that as loving and helpful as those who were uninfected were, they couldn't understand what someone with AIDS was going through. In those early years, there were stigmas, symptoms, struggles, and systems that only the infected could understand. The visit with Franco gave me an unexpected purpose. Over the next 8 years, I sat countless 4-hour hospice shifts with well over 100 men and women of all ages who were dying of AIDS. We were all dying of AIDS. I cleaned, fed, medicated, assisted, and listened to people facing the imminence of death. I lived in a world of frailty, courage, and mortality. We shared no overarching spiritual philosophy. There was only the powerful, inescapable, shared awareness of mortality and death. I came to realize that for me, it didn't matter if there was a God or no God. It didn't matter if there was heaven, hell, or reincarnation, whether people were vegetarian or omnivorous, what religions they followed or didn't. None of that was pertinent. Only the spoon of soup moving through the air to the waiting lips for the hungry stomach mattered. Life became a succession of small, even tiny acts. Opening eyes, the next breath, the light, the air, the sounds, all became critical. Any of them could be the last experience. The effect each small detail had on someone living their final days was magnified. The relief I could see when a sliver of ice cooled parched lips, when a pillow was shifted for someone who could not move it for themselves, was ever so moving, and in its simplicity, astounding. It wasn't an easy or pretty job. It was often distressful and painful for both the dying person and for the caregivers. But it was also beautiful. I was allowed to watch life's determination to continue as I gazed into eyes that loved seeing the next moment, even if that next moment might be the end of the story. I saw people die angry, resigned, peaceful, or even happy. I was honored to be in the presence of life undecorated and simplified. Life that really did exist only moment to moment, and was all the more precious because of that. In the middle of changing sheets and diapers, tears and laughter flowed. The most ordinary act was part of the sacred ceremonies in living life. Mortality was heightened, and death's kindest gift, teaching us to cherish life, was clear. I came to have an easy, very short mantra. I'm here. It's now. Be grateful. My own death loomed darkly as I attended those sweet people at the ends of their lives. There, in the proverbial valley of the shadow of death, the answer to my quest had been gifted to me. Keep it simple. We are mortal and human. And I like being mortal and human. I am grateful that I can choose to be aware of this moment and all of its details, its pluses and its minuses. I like the smooth and the rough weather of my emotions, and my thoughts both tame and wild. I no longer seek a path. From what I can see through my eyes, the path is constantly opening in front of me. It is important to treat this moment as a spiritual adventure, not because we could be dead in the next breath, but because this moment ends and is gone forever. Things, thoughts, feelings, people, and moments all have endings. I was transformed by being shown this in a powerful and dramatic way. It has left me delighted to be simple and ordinary, just a man on a journey, more interested in interaction than approval. I do not believe that there is a single correct spiritual path or way to live life. I do know that living it as yourself, just the way you are, on purpose, is exciting. Keep it simple.